That's a tricky question, because it's most of the people would say it's a mystery novel or crime novel.
A mystery novel.
Let's say, yeah, because basically it's the story of Marcus Goldman, who is a young author who just got a very big success with his first book, and when he's about to write his second novel, his good friend and former professor at the university, Harry Quebert, is jailed and accused of killing a young girl, and Marcus is going to make an investigation about the past of his friend Harry Quebert, trying to understand what happened in the past and what happened to this girl. So very basically it can sound like a mystery novel because there's a murder, there's an investigation, and in the end of the book you're supposed to know who is the murderer. But I would say it is not, because I never planned to write a crime novel as well.
You did not plan?
I didn't plan it at all. As well as I don't read much crime novel. I guess the last crime novel I read was probably like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So it's very interesting because when the book came out, it's a big book. It's like 600 pages,
yeah.
And so people were like, what is it about? So as I'm a bit lazy and I wanted to have a very quick answer, I was like, yeah, it's a kind of mystery novel. And then people read it, and a lot of them who are very big reader of crime novels told me, but it's not a crime novel, it's not a mystery novel, because you don't follow the very important step and rules that a crime novelist should follow.
So what rules of crime novel writing did you break?
I will not be able to tell you, but because I don't know myself. But I will say very basically my personal answer, because a lot of booksellers ask me, but we have a dilemma, because should we put your book in the crime section or in the literary section? And most of them told me we put the book in both shelves because it belongs to both worlds. My answer will be it probably not belong to the crime stories shelf, for the only one good reason that the story, the plot of the book could be the exact same without a murder. For instance, if Nola, and I'm not spoiling anything because it's in the beginning of the book, Nola is the young girl that is killed.
Yeah.
And that's the first scene of the book. She's killed. If she died in a car accident, for instance, or of a disease or anything like that, but not a crime, the story will remain the exact same. So maybe less suspense, maybe a few changes, maybe shorter, I don't know. But the murder, the crime story, the investigation is not the skeleton of the book. And I would say that, in general, a crime story cannot be a crime story if the crime and the investigation is not the core, the skeleton of the book.
What is the core?
I would say the core is the relationship between Marcus, the young author, and Harry Quebert. He's a former professor at the university, but who is also a very famous author in the United States. And there's like this relationship of pupil and master, and we understand that Marcus looks up on Harry a lot. And so there's this very tight relationship that will be...
So the core is friendship, maybe?
I will say the core is relationships, plural, because it's a book about relationships between people. The main one, I will say, it's of course the relationship between Harry and Marcus, so friendship. But there's also all these relationships in the book between father and daughter, between daughter and mother, between friends, between neighbors, between all those people that we are. And we are evolving in a strange world, because we meet every day a lot of people, but we don't get to know them very well.
Yeah, I would say in my own words that the core of the book is the trouble having true relationships.
It's a very good point. Yeah, I like it a lot. True relationship, because you just like point it. Are we really true in most of the relationships that we are? I don't think so. And for instance, I came here, and so you take your time to interview me here in Amsterdam. I flew to Amsterdam, so everybody has expectation. I'm here to answer your questions. You give me time and like vision in the Netherlands, which is very important for me. So I have to be polite and to be answering questions.
You're playing a role.
And I'm playing a role.
Are you playing?
Maybe I'm very sad. Maybe I just broke up with my girlfriend. Maybe.
So you're playing to be a happy writer now.
I'm not playing to be a happy writer. It's not about me. It's about us in general. We, in French we have these expressions that says it's polite to be joyful. And so it's not about me here now. It was just an example, but it's like people at work every day, most of the time, or in the streets. Hey, how are you? Good, you? No, I'm not good at all. Or yeah, I'm very good. But it's, very basic relationships are based on a lot of nonsense stuff and roles, and we all play roles because I don't know why, but because.
Now, are you critical about that, or?
Yeah, no, because there's also a time in the life when you make decision and you have to accept it. At the moment I decide to come to Amsterdam to promote my book, I have to be professional. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste the time of my publishers. So there's also part of being polite, which is, if you look at the bigger picture, which is being professional. And that's very important as well. So then I'm often asked myself, but so I have to decide with whom people I should be very honest and very true. And the fact is, if you decide that with your close friends, which is friends are here for you for that reason, if you can be honest, you know what, today I'm not feeling great for that reason, immediately things changes between you and your friends in the relationship.
But are you saying that you're always playing a role, not you, but people in general?
Not always, but most of the time, yeah.
And when are you not?
That's a good question. I think you're not when you're opening up to people, when you feel speak to express yourself towards people, when you feel free to share, to be like, I mean, even with yourself, and I'm very interested in psychology, for instance, and taking the time to be honest with yourself, it's a beginning and it's very important to say, am I really the one I want to be? Am I really acting truly towards myself? And that's also very important.
Could you say that your book is about reality then? Layers of reality.
Yeah, it's a good point as well. Layers of reality, I like that. Layers of reality of everybody involved in the story, because my reality and your reality can be very different. Let's use a very lame and basic example. If we're walking down the streets together now and we witness a car accident, two cars that bump on each other, and one of the car left, police came and asked us like, okay, what did you see? You will probably answer, oh, I see a white car running in that direction. I said, no, it was a blue car going that direction. And we have two visions of the truth, because I will be absolutely sure that it was a blue car going there, and you will be absolutely sure it was a white car going the opposite. But the truth is, for us, it's that for sure. And probably it's going to be a red car or a red cycle, for instance, going in another direction. But no matter, it's what we saw, it's what we felt, it's reality of any one of us.
There's reality, but there's no truth. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because what is truth? It's too personal to be expressed. It's in courts every day. People that did something thinking it was wrong or right. And that's very difficult. If you're having a car accident and you're the one that bumped into the guy in front of you, you will come back at night and tell your wife, oh, there was this asshole, he just like stopped and braked in the middle of the road, and I had no time to brake, and I bumped into him, can you believe that? And you will think, and you will be right, that he was wrong to brake that like strongly in the middle of the road. And maybe he was braking very strongly because a kid just like crossed the road, and he will come back at the same amount of you in his house and say, can you believe there was this kid crossing the street? I just stopped and this asshole behind me just bumped into me, was not looking where he was going to. And that's true as well. So that's the big dilemma of true and of the truth. The truth is very personal.
And that's what you find interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's how we evolve. It's exactly the picture of the world we evolve in, especially now with the medias and internet and, for instance, the information. How can we make sure that the information we're getting are impartial, for instance? Because partiality and impartiality are completely involved in the truth process. And that's something very difficult to find. And that's something very difficult to say. And now everybody's saying like, oh, I read that, and they're absolutely sure it's the truth. But how can you be sure?
Let's get back to the book.
Sure.
Did the story you didn't plan to write a mystery novel. Did the story get away with you?
Yeah, I had no plan of the plot. I had no plot at all in my mind. I was.
How did it start?
So I was in the States when I started to write the novel, and I saw a very nice house by the ocean, very similar to the one I described. Very similar
somewhere
to
in the north.
Yeah, in Maine. And I just made a sketch, a little draw of the house, and I was like, that could be a nice set for a novel, but I had no idea of what novel. And I put the sketch in a drawer, and I found it.
Sorry, but you were just traveling?
Yeah, because I'm spending a lot of time there, and I used to go in New England like every summer since I'm a kid. So it's a part of the world and part of the States that I know very well. And so that's why then I saw the drawer again. I was like, I could set a story there because I feel like I could be able to give back to an audience the atmosphere of New England. And I tried. And I felt very pleased of being in Geneva and being in the States at the same time.
Geneva is where you live.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I wrote the story. So everything started in the States, but then the 2 years I spent writing the novel, I was in Geneva. And I had a lot of fun because I was in Geneva, but my mind was able to go in the States at the same time.
And what's special about this atmosphere?
I'm not sure there's anything special in general. It's not more special than somewhere else in the world. It was more because I wanted for some reason to tell a story, to be a storyteller. And because that's my 6th book. So I really wanted...
It's your 6th book?
Yeah.
But it's the first one.
It's the second one that gets published. The first one that is published in the Netherlands, and that gets a success. But all to say that before that there was a whole process of like autofiction and trying this and trying that, and I really wanted to try to be a storyteller, which is using the first person, the I. I was doing that because I found it was using the I gives a lot of credibility to your story. If I'm thinking, I just flew in, and you won't imagine what happened to me in the airport. I was doing that. The fact that I'm in front of you and I'm using the I gives credibility to what I'm telling you, even though you know it's not the truth again.
And that's what you had been doing in those 4 or 5 novels that you...
I never tried this. I never tried to be a storyteller like this. So I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to use the I, but I didn't want it to fall in some autofiction. I didn't want it to tell my own life. I really wanted to tell a complete fiction story. And that's how I decided that it was very convenient for me to have a story set in the States, using the I, having myself in Geneva. That was easier, I guess, easier to avoid speaking about myself and telling this is Geneva, this is where I live, this is where I go to have a coffee, this is where I go to run. And honestly, it was not supposed to be an American novel, and it turned out to be considered as a crime story, as a great American novel, and I'm very pleased of that, and it's a great honor that people were able to relate that much to the States in the story. But I was not planned in the beginning. I wasn't like, I'm gonna write an American story.
Yeah, but my question was, did the story get away with you?
Yeah.
It got away with you?
Get away, but as I was doing it, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had no plan, no plot. So I was like, what is going to happen now? And I had this very...
Day by day.
Day by day. And there was a very funny feeling because at the same time I was coming at my desk on the morning, and at the same time I was the writer with like some kind of mission, keeping on working on the book. And at the same time I was the reader. I was like, what is going to happen today? It's fun. It's very exciting. That's probably why the book is quite a long book, and we could even say that there's maybe too many twists in the book, and I will agree with that. But at the same time, it's exactly how I loved it, because let's do it again. Let's try to make it like last a little more, because I don't want the story to end.
You couldn't stop writing.
Yeah, and I guess if I had like planned the story with the plot and all the stuff, I would say, okay, it's beginning, middle, end of the book, and that's gonna be 300 pages, and
it could have been half of it.
Yeah, probably. But there's like all the pleasure of the fiction, of storytelling, of telling and a never-ending story, like the kids when you tell a story at night just before going to bed. Say, a little more, 5 minutes more, please. That's the same pleasure, and it's a pleasure for the kids that are listening to the story because they want to have more of the story. But it's a pleasure also for the person that is telling the story, because it's a pleasure to hear that the story is enjoyed by the people who are listening to it.
The book you wrote before and that were not published yet, do they have a theme in common?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all, no. Very different, various book. The previous one...
And they also differ from this book?
Very different, yeah. The previous one that get published in France, whose title in English is The Last Days of Our Fathers, is set during the World War II between Paris and London. And it's about a secret branch of the British Secret Services founded by Churchill, who trained a lot of French people in the UK and sent them back to France to fight against the Germans. So it's completely different.
But also about truth, I think. I guess.
Yeah, probably, you're right. It's true. The truth about people, and especially young people that decided to live their life in France, and who could have live and pass the war without doing nothing and just stay for the war to be over, and that decided to fight because they have this willing for the humanity to last. And that's also the truth to, courage, for instance, is a very interesting kind of truth.
And madness too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Did you need this process of writing 5 books before the novel we're discussing now, before you were able to write a book like this? Was it your own private course, or what was it?
Yeah, the situation is always very different when you look behind, and then you realize that things that you did had probably a meaning that you didn't realize on the moment. And of course, because what happened very basically is I wrote my first novel. So I was at the university. I always loved to write and write stories. But when I started, I went to law school in Geneva.
To law school?
Yeah.
So you were not trained to be a writer?
Not at all. But I used to write a lot, since I'm a kid.
From doing that, from what feeling or longing?
I guess a very general feeling of loving creation. I love drawing, I love playing music, I love writing. It happened that drawing, I love that, but I'm not very good at that. So it's something very personal that gave me a lot of pleasure, but it's very limited to myself because I don't feel like I want to show it to people, because I enjoy it, but I'm not proud of what I'm doing with that. Just that it's not very nice. Music, I like it, but I play the drums. So it means that I need like a band to play music for real. So it involves other people. So you have to wait and count on people and like give meetings, and sometimes they don't show up. So it's completely linked to others, people willing.
And that's what you do not like, or?
That's what I do not like. It's because writing, and that's why I love to write, it's only myself. I'm the only one involved, which means that I just can sit and work as much as I want, whenever I want.
You are your own problem.
Yeah, exactly. Music band, and I tried it and I love it. But music band, you have to find a date to like meet everybody. Everybody needs to be here with the same level of motivation. It's tough. It's tough to make it work as you want it to work. Writing, you just sit and write. That's much more easier. And so all to say that I've always been involved in the process of creation. And when I started the university, I was playing music as well, I was drawing as well, but I decided I was a bit bored. And yeah, in class, I was like not following a lot like the class. So I was like, I get a lot of time for myself, I should use it to write a novel. And I wrote a first novel during the first year at the law school. And I sent it to some publishing houses, and all the publishing houses I sent it to turned down the book. They say, "Oh no,
turned down the book."
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, thank you very much, but we don't like it."
That it wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough, or not good enough for them, or not. They were not enjoying it. Call it whatever you want. But so for me, I get these letters.
Or was it good enough? Looking back.
No, looking back, I completely understand why all the publishers didn't like it. But at the moment I was like, oh, I would love to have a novel published. So I wrote a second one. I sent it to the publishing house and they all said no again. So I wrote a third one, sent it to all the publishing house and no again. And a fourth one, and it was no again. And a fifth one, it was no again. And then was the truth about the Harry Quebert affair. So, of course, now I can look at the picture. I can completely get that all these all these negative answers were very positive for my work.
They were positive?
Yeah, they were positive for me, not at the moment, because at the moment I was disappointed, of course. But it gave me the strength, time after time, to try again and say, let's try again, let's try better. And let's fail better, as Beckett would say. But let's try, and let's fail, and let's try, and let's fail. The more you try, the more you fail, but it's better and better.
And you never hesitated?
No. No, for me it was
Stop writing, stopping to write was never an option? No,
never. I was aware when finishing the truth about the Harry Quebert affair, I was aware that I would probably have to stop writing that much, because I was writing like every day at the time. So I finished my law school, and then I decided to take a part-time job, not very interesting for me, but interesting for my writing because it was part-time. So I had like
as a lawyer.
Yeah, as a jurist in Geneva, in the parliament in Geneva. And so it was great because I had like half of my time free to write. And when I finished the Harry Quebert affair, I was telling myself, okay, now you really need to try to find a full-time job, because you need to work, you need to pay your bill, you need to be serious, if I can say so. And so I was aware that it would be the end of a process of everyday writing, because of course, as soon as you get a full-time job, you cannot write every day, or it's much more difficult. But I knew I will always write, because it's something that it's in me. I don't know how to say it, but it
has to be done.
Yeah. And then came the success. So I have less time to write now because I'm traveling a lot to promote the book. But
is there an explanation for the success you're having? You're extremely popular in France, I think. Mm. The book's published in England. It's you've been on a number one position of selling books in the Netherlands for weeks.
Yeah.
Is there an explanation for that? How about your success?
What is certain, and one of the explanation in books in general, is you cannot build a success.
There's no formula.
There's no formula. It's not a science. Success of the books came from readers and booksellers most of the time.
I remember talking to Kate Moss.
Mm-hmm.
You know her?
Yeah.
English author.
I'd love to meet her.
She spoke about some sort of a formula.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not convinced, and I will tell you why. And I'd love to know what are her arguments about the formula. But when my book came out in France, it was the same week as the J.K. Rowling's last book, Casual Vacancy. And I was sure J.K. Rowling will beat every book down, and that will, like, my book will be completely like surrounded by J.K. Rowling's book everywhere. That was the talk of the town. Everybody was like, J.K. Rowling was on the bus, in the tube stations, like everywhere in the world. And the book was kind of a fiasco in France. Grasset, if I'm not wrong, the publishing house in France, bought the right for a few millions of euros, and they sold only, if we can say so, only like 100,000 copies, which is not a lot when you pay that much money to have the rights. The answer I will say, and I ask like a lot of booksellers that get my book in advance, that get phone calls from my publisher in France. They call them, say, I'm selling you a book, I believe in it, it's a young guy, he's very nice, the story is great, please read it. That was my book. The J.K. Rowling was some agent, I don't know where in the world, let's say, you cannot read the book before the day the book is in sale, you cannot do that. And then booksellers was like, so in the end, I was supposed to sell two kinds of books. One I read and liked, yours, that I was feeling a positive energy behind, new publishers, and there was a nice story of books in general. You're old publisher, small publishing house, a great story. And on the other hand, I had this book of J.K. Rowling I knew anything about because I didn't have a chance to read it. I was forbid to read it. So when people came to my shop and asked me what should I read, I gave you a book because I say I read it and I loved it.
But what you are describing now are circumstances.
Yeah, I'm just saying that.
And it's not about the book. There must be something. That's what interests me very much. And that's why I also discussed it with Kate Moss. That's what I find very interesting. What makes a book a binding thing from a perspective of interest?
For me, it's, as you just say, it's circumstances. It's people it's booksellers, it's readers. I would say it's not about the book. It's about everything around the book. Because, let's be honest, even though you wrote a great book, if like no one reads it, if there's no press, if there's no booksellers that read it and that promote it a lot, you won't sell a lot. That's very sad, but that's the reality of book.
One of the main characters in this book says, books are not about words, books are about people.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Oh, I definitely agree that books are about the people and about the people in the book and about the people that are reading the book.
So that's not it. It's really about circumstances, as you were saying.
I do believe so, yeah. I do believe so because the book itself, it's nothing but some paper sheets put all together that are lying on the table or on the bookshelf or anywhere in the world. But it's alive at the moment, or I'm taking the book and say, oh, read it, read this, you're gonna love it. That's when it starts for the book. So it's only by the actions of readers, of human beings, that the book get a success.
Well, are you saying now that you were lucky?
Very lucky. I completely, yeah, for sure. I would say that probably the same book without the same publishing house, for instance, in France, will not be like the same success, for sure. I feel very lucky and I realize I'm very lucky. And for instance, my first book was published in France 6 months before the truth about the Harry Quebert affair. And it was published by the same publishing house, same author, same everything. And we didn't, in France, we sell probably like 1,000 copy, 1,500 copy, maybe. And 6 months after came my second book, same author, same year, same publishing house, same everything. And we saw in France 800,000 and something. You know, it's about luck for sure.
Circumstances.
Circumstances, again. Reality.